going on, my friends? I'm breaking through seat at the table. Got little mama sitting down here. For the love of God, this is the fifth time I've tried doing this freaking damn video, and I'm getting to be a little pissed off by it. I'm just being honest with you. Jesus, this damn software is just making me fit to be tied. But part of it's just me. I'm getting old. All right. So let's talk about something that's been on my brain for a couple of weeks now. From Dark Age of Man is called being a naive precentor. This is kind of a poetic, understated statement, right? Be naive, because being naive has a lot of connotations depending on who you ask that term of and who you apply that term to. Because one person's idea of being naive, no, being naive, and another person's is not the same. That's kind of a thing to be aware of, right? Hmm. But the thing that really drew that out my brain, it's been returning back and forth for the past couple of weeks, is just how we've come a long, long way from the earliest days of the hobby. And for those of you who were not there with those of us who were, or shortly thereafter, you really don't have a clue just how vastly superior the systems are today of what they were back in the day, and your options. So as you know, there's a couple YouTube channels I watch, and one of them's this young fella. He's in his 30s. He's got an autistic kid and some other kids. They're in their 5 and 6 year old range, and I'm like, you're trying to teach these guys role playing games at that age? You're a bit autistic yourself too, ain't you, Pop? Just saying, Dad, you're a little special there, a little special there too, and that's good. I'm not knocking it. It's clear that this individual, who's a great guy from what I can see on his videos, has not a lot of role playing experience, game wise, mechanic wise, from prior to this. So this is something he himself is fairly new to the hobby, and in part, I take it he got involved in the hobby because he's trying to find ways to engage his autistic son and creative ways that can help his son learn and to achieve new uh, 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 levels of capability. And I'm butchering this real bad, and I'm sorry for that. But the fact is that it's an experience watching somebody new with so much on their plate, trying to achieve so much with a very reasonably honorable goal in the process. So back in the day, when you go back to the earliest days, to be the game master, to be the dungeon master, was to master the damn game, to master the environment, to be the creator of. Therefore, so unless you were buying pre-made modules, which a lot of us did, and most people had some, or pre-made sandboxes, entire, the Dragonlance is a sandbox, Forgotten Realms is a sandbox, Greyhawk. There's three of the big ones right off the bat, right? And so the rest of that was up to us to create and develop our own. So my first campaigns were all set in the Greyhawk setting because that's what my young friends and I had available, and we weren't really at that point of expanding. We were in the 9 to 8 to 10 year old category at that era, and we were getting an idea of how to run this stuff. But we didn't have access to the social media. We didn't have access to a bunch of experienced players, game stores full of them, etc. That you do have today. And we learned the hard way. We learned by reading the books and the rare occasion of observing some other group of people who play. And then so that in that process, you develop a pretty, stagnant idea how things should work. And you have to challenge yourself on a regular basis. That's part of being a good dungeon master, as far as I'm concerned, is always challenging yourself to think of what could be, and then to be open minded to the newest version of something that's coming along, because you never know until you've experienced whether it's for you or not. So to be a naive presenter, how to be a naive dungeon master, game master. I mean, you hear me say it enough times, I get a little flummoxed or flustered by this ever changing terminology for a position. The player's position never changes. The players are always the players, or the player characters. But the whoever's at the other end of the table, the litany of changes for possible monikers is immense. It's crazy. It's retarded in a lot of ways, and that's just me being old and grognardic, I guess. Yeah, that's a word I made up. So the concept though is over the generations, as I got older, and I use this frame of reference every now and then too. I become a lazy GM. And I don't mean be lazy, mean I don't do nothing. I just show up and put in as little possible and go forward. No, I learned that it's not necessary to create this massive backstory for a setting for this. We don't need, three whole pages on a freaking tree branch, man. And if you know the reference to that, good for you. You know where I got the reference for that. The point, though, is that in my mind is that as we grow and got more experience, this also applies to the hobby as a whole. Just like any other thing that we do as humanity does, the longer it's done, the more information's available, the more people know on how certain things are done, the easier it is for the next generation to learn them things, pick them up as they go along, and expand and add to them. Right. So when we talk about being a lazy gem, this is where I was actively encouraging my players many years before it was obviously a thing to put as much input as possible into the environment we were interacting in. It's just like the movements of backstory, just how important backstory can be and how often I think it's misunderstood by the people that are creating the backstory in the first place. From the respective position of the naive precentor, we should know as very little as possible about the player characters and their backstory, except what's pertinent to the immediate situation. It means you don't need 4 pages of backstory. You could get away with half a paragraph, 3 lines. He came, he saw, he did. The only issue I ever had with backstories when it come to players was if you come to the table with a 20-year-old first level character, you better not have the backstory for a 40-year-old level 7 veteran player because that ain't going to fly. Your character's not been alive long enough to achieve half the crap you think they have. All right, in their mind that they have. So no, but more importantly is we look at the backstory not pretty much per se how it sets up the character to the others. Because what do we do with the backstory? We say it one time, we read it one time maybe, and then we forget about it. For the most part, it just sits on the back corner of a page somewhere and gets ignored. That's a mistake. And I think we've learned that. We've really come a long way from that perspective. We can look into the backstory as an example and say, oh, here's possible factions, here's possible NPC character contacts, here's possible drama scenario, threads that can lead us to other places. So being a naive presenter is looking at from the GM perspective that all the interactions and actions at the table should be perpetrated by the player characters themselves or indirectly the non-player characters. Like I said, I've got plenty of videos to back it up. I have yet to get anything published in print, and that's mostly my fault because I don't apply nothing. I don't send it out for some idiot reason. I'm too chicken to do it. Although right now I have excuses that it's not digitized. So I did everything the hard way, and now I'm still doing everything the hard way. And yeah, I am working on something currently. I am actually working on a short story that I plan to, yet another short story I plan to submit to Catalyst for what little good it will do. Anyhow, the idea being though is that the character should bring as much to the table as possible when it comes to the environment. So I started asking my players to, include things like, well, your character came from here. Let's have a little bit more information about here. So I come back to them and say, oh, that's interesting. So what do we know about that place? How far away is it? How connected is it? What about that faction? So you were part of a mercenary group for a very short window. What happened to them? Are they still around? You see, the opportunities are there to ask the questions. But more importantly, when it comes to the interactions at the table in characters, so the players drive the story. The players drive the campaign. The players drive the session that leads to the next session. And that is what we're ultimately wanting to do. And so when the players come up with an idea or a thought that may be counterintuitive to the plan or the script, being a bit naive about it means we listen to what they're saying and probably roll with it more than we wouldn't, because they're the ones creating the environment. They're the ones interacting with the environment. It's their decisions that make or break things. That's kind of where they're heading for some of this, right? Be a naive presenter. I believe we are quite close to that now as a philosophy, as a hobby, as a group. That lion's share of players today uh, want as much interaction with the players or at the table as possible, and most game masters today, presenters today, uh, want to be deeper, more engaged in the environment setting as well, and it can be a bit of a challenge. You want some control. You want some A leads to B leads to C, to give yourself some structure, some formal structure to your environment, to your game world. Because I've played in those campaigns too, where it's wackadoodle hour and everything changes almost on the moment, and half the time it makes absolutely no sense. So now the snakes are flying through the air because they can. What? It's a trick, right? It's a challenge. Think about the young father and his autistic kid. How much poetic license, how much player agency can he give them and still maintain some structure? Yet, by starting as young as he is, by introducing them to the concepts and the many concepts that go in hand with the hobby, he's giving them a little heads up, a little step up. And for some of us, that's how we got started. We started playing as very young, watching our betters, our older siblings or cousins, parents in some rare occasions. Uh, but it was very rare to find anybody who actually played this stuff in the late 70s, early 80s. It was a thing. It was becoming a bigger thing. And it was easier, or it was almost necessary to be the conductor, to dictate pretty much everything in order to understand just how much we don't have to dictate everything. That's basic rule number one for a wannabe presenter. You don't have to be in control of everything. As a matter of fact, it's been determined that you're better off if you're not in control, that you're in control of very little possible, you know, interactions and things like that. Anyway, this is my fifth attempt at this damn video, and it's gone. I don't know. I had it completely taped and run on yet a different program, and I can't figure out what happened to it. I don't know if it didn't save it or it saved it. I just get confused by it. See, now this is Win Movie Maker, but it doesn't allow me to do transitions. So XSplit, for example, I had a little key over here, and I could get the mouse, come over here, and I could click at the opening scene, and then I could click it to go to this camera view and do what I wanted, and then I could click to this camera view, so I could go between the headshot to the table, the down view, and back again, as you've seen in many videos, and I could add images and other stuff that I could click in, bring up as I wanted, and take it out. I can't do any of that with this program. If it's there, I don't know how to figure it out. And then I had this Filmora program. It's one I just tried doing a video on, and then it didn't save it. If it saved it someplace. I don't know where to even begin to look for it, you know? So I suspect I'm going to have to find yet another set of software to try to figure this stuff out. I mean, I finally got a response back from the XSplit people. They want me to do a caption, excuse me, of the audio bar or something, and I have to figure out how to do that. I mean, I used to know how to do all this stuff, but I haven't done it in so long. It's a matter of getting a capture image of the screen and then send it to them so they can sit there and tell me, well, the audio is on. Yeah, we know the audio's on there, Chuckle. Chuck, we know it's on there. So more importantly, is why isn't it showing up in the videos when I do them? Or it comes off as this kind of staticky, clunky, whatever. Something's not right with the software. And it's not the equipment, because this is a completely different laptop from the other laptop and the third laptop in front. We're all having problems with the same guy, the same damn shit. And it doesn't make any difference whether it's an Apple or an Android or whatever. Right? Hmm. Anyway, in my opinion. So I've got mama sitting here sleeping on my hand. Can't give you a down shot of it because it would kill the damn video. I can transition over to the other camera, but it stops the video to do it, which seems to mean I would have to do individual things and then link them all in here, and it'd spend another God knows how much time of my day trying to interact everything together, and I just don't have the patience or the time for it. Anyway, till next time.